We've got breaking news. President Trump makes a bold prediction on what's coming for President Obama.
Keeping you informed and engaged, now more than ever. This is Seculo. We want to hear from you. Share and post your comments or call 1-800-684-3110. And now your host, Logan Seculo.
What a week. We made it to a Friday once again. This is Logan Seculo here on the show, Seculo. Just making sure people know that.
I like it.
Seculo in the know on the show. We got Will Haynes joining me in studio. EP Will Haynes. We also got later on Mike Pompeo joining us. And who else, Will? We got a representative coming on.
That's right. We have a Congressman Abe Hamadeh who will be calling in. He's from Arizona. We've had him on the show years ago, but happy to have him back on today talking about the situation in Syria and the horrific violence that is unfolding there against the Druze community.
Yeah, and as people start kind of filtering in right now, we know as the show starts, specifically online on our YouTube platform, which is, by the way, over 500,000 subs, but also millions that watch each week, which we know how much we appreciate that because, again, purely independent media is number one right now, and that's because of people like you that support this show. And, of course, we are winding down our 35 Years of Justice drive, only 6 days left as we celebrate 35 years of justice of the ACLJ. It's an important time. We urgently need your support right now, whether that's what's going on in Israel, whether that's what's going on in the States, and, of course, we talk now about Syria and all the different places that the ACLJ gets involved in. And we're going to get to the breaking news. Don't worry. We're going to talk about that in just a second. But right now, we got to double our efforts. We got to do that by having you support the ACLJ. And when you do right now, your gift is doubled. It's Friday. I'm going to tell you about it a lot because this is one of the last times you're going to hear me talk about this one. So if you have a minute and you have a little bit of monetary help that you can provide, look, I know it's a tough time. If you don't, I've given you free options. Great option, hit subscribe. Throw in a comment. Share the show with your friends. Just go to aclj.org, spend some time on it. That's really what I want you to do. I want you to get engaged in what we're doing here. But phone lines are open for you at 1-800-684-3110 because President Trump made the statement that Will and I have actually been saying for the last couple days that none of you wanted to hear. I'll be honest. I saw some of the comments going through and going, Logan, I think you're wrong. That's how I interpret the people when they get mad at me sound.
Yes.
I don't know that. It could be grandma's, I don't know. I mean, that could be a grandma voice.
Who's to say, really?
Logan, I think you're wrong. That's what more I think of it, how it could be.
Right.
But President Trump, they asked him, well, what do you think about all of the information that Tulsi Gabbard has released, the new strike force, but then specifically asked, do you think President Obama will receive presidential immunity? Which we said, of course, we think he will. Why? Because that's what the case that we argued about and that the Trump administration won. That was the decision, and it affects not just President Trump. And again, it's why you always got to think ahead. I'm not saying, by the way, it's wrong. I think it was the right decision. You always got to think ahead because it's not just going to affect you. It's not going to just affect your side of the political aisle. It's going to affect both. So let's hear from President Trump. This is on tarmac. The audio's been enhanced, so you can hear it a little clearer than usual because you may be like, hey, Will, where's all the jet noise? Thankfully, with new technology, we're able to get rid of a lot of that. But if there's a little quirk in the sound, no, that's why. But I want you to hear from President Trump himself.
How do you think that the Supreme Court's ruling that benefited you on presidential immunity would apply to former President Barack Obama and what you're accusing him of doing?
It probably helped him a lot. The immunity ruling. But it doesn't help the people around him at all. But it probably helped him a lot. He's done criminal acts. There's no question about it. But he has immunity, and it probably helped him a lot. He owes me big. Obama owes me big.
And that's what I think. When you actually hear it coming from President Trump, he knows what's going to happen. A lot of you have asked, will anything happen to President Obama? And we have said pretty clearly that it would be pretty hard to get to President Obama. Now, it doesn't mean everyone around him has that same immunity. Of course, it means they don't. We're going to keep this convo rolling. Give us a call at 1-800-684-3110. What do you think about this? President Trump comes out and says, look, I think we know the facts now. We've dropped some pretty big bombshells on you, whether that's calling this treasonous behavior. But hey, if I have presidential immunity, so does he. You got to live in that world. You can't just be one-sided. What do you think, though? When you hear about this, does it make you rethink the way the Trump administration goes about specific things that benefit President Trump? And maybe not think about how it's going to affect future and former presidents? Give us a call.
on presidential immunity would apply to former President Barack Obama and what you're accusing him of doing?
It probably helps him a lot. Probably helps him a lot, the immunity ruling. But it doesn't help the people around him at all. But it probably helps him a lot. He's done criminal acts, there's no question about it. But he has immunity, and it probably helps him a lot. He owes me big. Obama owes me big.
Former President Obama may be immune because of the Supreme Court ruling on Trump about presidential immunity, but whether it comes to Clapper, Comey, and other members of Obama's National Security Council, they're on.
The truth is, Tulsi struck a nerve because late last night, all the president's men came crawling out of the woodwork to cry on CNN. Clapper says he did nothing wrong, but he's still lawyering up.
So what will you do if they come after you? What is your plan?
Well, I'll lawyer up, I suppose. Already have.
It's obvious the collusion that occurred was between President Obama, his henchmen, Democrats in Congress, and the leftist legacy media. They were co-conspirators. They continue to be co-conspirators.
It is hard to draw, in my view, any conclusion other than that which I've already said, which is this was a conspiracy, a treasonous conspiracy to undermine the legitimacy of President Trump in that 2016 election and the legitimacy of his presidency, and enacted what was essentially a years-long coup.
It's pretty clear that what's going on is that they're trying to prepare actual criminal cases, that there are referrals being made, and you heard James Clapper talking about being lawyered up. I think that's probably going on universally right now.
Welcome back to Seculo. Phone lines are filling up right now, but we got about 3 open. 1-800-684-3110. Great time to get in line. We're actually going to take calls a little bit earlier today, so if you want to be on the air, you're not going to be holding quite as long. After this segment, we're going to hear from Mike Pompeo. Then Will and I will be back. And again, we have a special guest coming up after that to talk about what's going on in Syria. But we're going to take calls between now and then. Let's restate the facts, though. A lot of you are just joining us right now. President Trump went on the record, essentially, being asked about presidential immunity. And if these documents and all the things that have come out, and using words like treason and all of the things that he says Barack Obama has done, President Obama, including even they're saying he has done some bad things, he's done some criminal things. I mean, that was part of the quote today. He's done criminal acts. There's no question about it, but he has immunity, and it probably helped him on these things. Obama owes me big. That is what President Trump said, as, of course, they argued that President Trump should have presidential immunity. That case was successful for President Trump, and now you have the reverse, where it's going to go affect President Obama. And by the way, I think that's the right decision. I don't think that now this changes the way the Supreme Court should or shouldn't have ruled, but maybe you feel differently. I want to go to a call about it. Let's go to Michelle in Virginia on line 1. Michelle, go ahead.
Hi. With regard to the presidential immunity, is there any difference between automatic and presumptive? I've been hearing things about it, and if so, could that help the case against Obama?
So it's actually presumptive and, well, let me find that other word, sorry, presumptive and absolute. Now, the difference there would be that presumptive means that theoretically there could be some sort of thing if it was not within the official duties of the presidency. However, that there's still the presumption there, so that's where they start, and that also gives a lot of cover for it as well. Whereas absolute instead of automatic would be just no matter what, while you're in the office of the presidency, you have immunity. You cannot be charged for anything. Now, obviously, the Supreme Court did not go that far. If a president of the United States were to decide to go rob a bank, I don't think there's any, I mean, not a likely scenario. It's a hypothetical, but I don't think that there would be, there's not a claim that you can find there to say, like, yeah, he was robbing the bank because it's a part of the official duties of the president.
This is, you got to meet, you got to discuss, you had to have plans.
Right, exactly. So that's where the presumption is that we're starting with the baseline that you're doing things within your official capacity, and then there's presumptive immunity. But there could theoretically, robbing a bank as a president of the United States, you're probably not going to get an immunity sort of defense coming out of that.
If anyone wants to test it, future or former presidents.
Yeah, well, former wouldn't work right now. They would have to have done it while they were in office.
Obama and President Biden. But regardless of what that Hunter interview was, you can't go rob a bank right now.
To that point, Michelle, though, where it does get interesting, and what I'm seeing a lot of comments here saying is that what the Supreme Court ruled was that it was official acts you cannot be prosecuted for. I mean, you even think of some of the extrajudicial killings that President Obama did with drone strikes on American citizens that weren't even thought to be terrorists. That's a thing that happened. That does seem to violate the law and the Constitution, but that is something that he would be covered under because of national security, using the military. Those are things that are official acts, even if the act itself may seem like it violates the law. That's where it went in favor of President Trump. They were trying to get him on things like calling the different states, sending the electors, trying to get an alternate slate of electors, things that were viewed as trying to subvert the law of the country, and they were trying to go after him for all that.
And as we've said, if you set an example, that is how things are going to roll. Look, it's not unlike impeachment. We said if you start making impeachment willy-nilly, you start making it flippant, then it's going to start happening again. It's going to happen on the other side. And look, how many times have we already seen a threaten or a file for impeachment? We've seen it now with President Trump, but also we saw it with President Biden. How many times?
Right.
Over and over and over. And of course, it doesn't materialize because now you've just made it a part of this political lexicon that means nothing.
Well, and I mean, I almost expect a member of the Democrat caucus in the House now to come forward and be like, we're going to impeach President Trump. Why? He said, Obama owes me big. That's clearly got to be corruption.
Why? Because
some sort of blackmail scheme that he's trying to perpetrate on a former president. So he owes me big. Impeachment. Straight to impeachment.
And why is it? It's because people don't know my name, and I need people to know my name.
Yeah, typically, that's the one.
I need people to know my name so then not only can I win re-election, but then, like, if I don't, I can get a job somewhere.
Right.
Because they're like, hey.
He's the guy who tried to impeach him.
He's the guy who tried to impeach him. Good for him. All right. Let's go ahead and take another call. Martin's got a good look on this. Martin, go ahead, North Carolina.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Donald Trump, really, I like what he said because he's looking at things in reality about immunity if it is a for official act. But the one thing that President Obama cannot escape is the reality of what he did with real evidence, not evidence that was made up or contrived to try, like they did for Donald Trump. He can't escape that.
Well, and Martin, I think to your point as well, is that President Trump also said it doesn't cover all the other people that went forward with this.
Just him.
And one, if you think back historically, what the fallout for President Nixon after the scandal of Watergate, right? He is largely looked at as a president that isn't looked kindly upon in history.
Shame.
And he never went to prison, never did anything for Watergate.
Ended a war.
Right. I mean, he had great things in his legacy.
If Watergate happened now, it would be a blip on the radar.
They would laugh it off. I mean, because we're also looking at something that was much worse than Watergate, literally trying to subvert the incoming president with manufactured evidence. And so if history serves us well, what should happen is that with all this coming out, President Obama's legacy should be just completely eviscerated. And everything that people look to him for should be gone. And hopefully that there will be prosecutions of those people around him if they are found to be guilty of crimes that are being alleged here. But I do think that I like seeing President Trump saying basically what we've been saying all week is that, hey, we have to be realistic here.
We're armed in reality.
We're going to tell you the truth about what happened, but that doesn't mean he's going to prison for it. And I think that he is very clear-eyed about it.
That's right. Martin, thank you so much for calling. We do a lot of calls, and I want to answer a lot of these because I think they're important, and I think people are now kind of seeing through. You have to be able to see through the political biases. You got to see through your own rose-colored glasses and the way things are working. And look, I think Tulsi Gabbard went out there and made her statements, knowing this as well, by the way, that let's give everyone the facts, even if the facts don't change and don't make a President Obama seek prison time. Okay? One, I don't think it's good for the country. I didn't think it was good for the country for President Trump. I don't think it's good for the country for President Obama or anybody. President Obama, you know what it means. Look what happened to President Trump. You arrest him, you do all those things, and he wins in a landslide. You know what happened if you did something like this to President Obama? And I know you're not going to like when I say this. One of the most beloved presidents of the United States in our lifetime. Okay, you would have probably the most catastrophic loss from a Republican in office because you would have such an outcry, specifically if his wife was to run. Let's go ahead and take another call. Let's go to Terry, who's calling in Georgia. Watch it on the Salem News Channel, which, by the way, we are available on the Salem News Channel, which is now, like, if you have Xfinity or any of those, a lot of times you can just talk into your remote and say, hey, I want to watch, you don't give that much information. Just like Salem News Channel, and it'll come up. I encourage you to watch us, obviously, on YouTube or Rumble and all that, but some people want a 24-hour feed. You want to watch it like you watch your other news stations. There's some other great commentators on there as well. And we're on there live from 12 to 1 p.m. But, Terry, go ahead.
Well, I'm going to jump right in here, bud. You know, Nixon, Watergate burned him. Obama turned around, does the same thing to Trump, no consequences. Right. Now we're finding out a lot of these conspiracy theories that we thought were going on are coming out that are true. And I understand the presidential, what do you want to call it?
Immunity.
But anyway, immunity, thank you. But anyway, you know, every president leaves office with their salary and security. They tried to take Trump's security away from him and everything else. Why don't they do that to Obama and take security away from him and start putting some kind of consequences on him? Because, you know, there's got to be some kind of punishment for this, because this is totally unacceptable. I mean, totally. And I hope I'm speaking for a lot of Americans out there, but this country needs to get straightened back around to have some common sense and some godly values.
Well, look, Terry, as we said, that doesn't mean that everybody else is off the hook here.
Right.
And of course, that's not official, by the way, that President Obama is off the hook. But when you have President Trump even saying that, he doesn't say that flippantly.
That also means the Department of Justice has briefed him and said, here's the realities of what we're looking at based off of what we've already have.
Strike force.
But they're not done. They're just now starting looking at this. But also to Terry's point about taking away the salary, while it would be nice for all of us to get in perpetuity $200,000 as a pension from being president of the United States, if you look at his Martha's Vineyard home, Barack Obama does not need that $200,000 to live as comfortably as he's living.
Look, and then we got 20 seconds left in this segment. Coming up next is Mike Pompeo. I want you to support the work of the ACLJ. Someone said on the chat, I need you to talk slower, Logan. You're too amped up. So I'm going to tell you, go to ACLJ.org. Columbia University has settled with the Trump administration. There's been a lot of conversation about settling with the Trump administration, and now we have this where upwards of $200 million they have settled over the anti-Semitism claims, saying they were not protecting their Jewish students enough. Now, of course, they don't only have to put their money where their mouth is, they have to actually do something about it. But this is a very interesting move from what you would say is the elite institutions in this country that seem to be harboring this kind of conversation.
First of all, giving credit to the fact that none of this would have come to light until, the GOP took the House and held public hearings, and all of a sudden it was exposed to everybody, the incredible systematic anti-Semitism at these elite institutions going all the way to the top. And then also, let's not forget that it was President Trump who finally elevated it to a national issue that demanded consequences.
There needs to be real teeth to this, that they have to know they are being watched. And they can't get away with this again, or else next time it won't be a $200 million settlement with your $15 billion endowment just being barely touched by this.
The president himself, from the very top, does care about this issue. He knows it's grossly immoral, and it's part of the fabric of destroying the fabric of America. And I'm saying it's part of the academic fabric happening at universities. And so I think he does care about this. I think the people around him care about this. And so whether you think this was, not you personally, but whether people think this was enough or not enough, it's a very important first step. I think it's very encouraging, and I'm glad that we will continue to work with the administration, with Congress, et cetera. I will just tell you, we haven't discussed it yet, but literally an hour or two ago, I was talking with a student at a well-known university, not Columbia as it happens, who was talking about an incident where a professor literally put the professor's hand, shot their arm in the sky and said Heil Hitler to make a point, and no one was clear what the point was. This is insanity. It's got to stop.
Welcome back to Secular. We are waiting. Secretary Mike Pompeo, he may be ghosting us. We'll see. Well, he's not. He doesn't usually.
No.
So, sometimes it happens. Let's go ahead and take a call while we wait. Let's go to another call from Salem News Channel. Let's go to John in California. You're on the air.
Yeah, hi. I'd just like to say, what I think is ridiculous is that there's a system in place, and when you're found guilty of treason, you hold trial for treason. He needs to be held on trial for treason, and then let it play out the way it plays out. That's how it should be for anybody that does the kind of things that this guy did. And we know what he did. And another thing, years ago when Trump first got elected, I know people that were saying it was a soft coup right then and there. So for them to come out now and say, oh, there was a soft coup, and try to get all this information, everybody thinking about that instead of the whole Epstein thing, and then the media saying, oh, well, we can't tackle two things at once, is ridiculous. You guys can easily talk about both topics at the same times with the same amount of importance. And for the media to be, trying to divide those and say they can't do that is absolutely ridiculous, and there's just no excuse for it, in my opinion.
John, thank you. That was a good comment. Again, watch out on the Salem News Channel. Of course, John, we're mainly talking about is, sure, were some of those quote-unquote theories now confirmed with this documentation, things that we knew already? Yeah, of course. There was a lot of things in there that were presumed, but now Tulsi Gabbard said, here's the facts, and she revealed them. A lot of people still are laughing them off. John, as you've seen, people have said, how dare they make this into a big deal? Now, again, I've said it before. Like you said, do you think that he needs to go on trial for treason? That all needs to happen? Well, then if this was going to be something you were going to run on, you probably should have watched out on that presidential immunity, because now it pretty much makes it very, very hard for that to get there.
And that is something that we advocated for.
I think it's right.
Right, is that
I think all options as the president should be on the table. And when you're having these meetings, you're going to say stuff, you're going to do stuff that may not seem so, on the up and up, because you're trying to come up with what the plan is.
You just got to see my pretty face for a minute. We're about to have Secretary Mike Pompeo with us for
I'll let you take the first question,
yes.
then, Will.
Secretary Pompeo, we did see yesterday that France announced its plans to recognize a Palestinian state. This would be a historic move from one of the biggest countries and economies in the world, and we're seeing also U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio has condemned their choice. But I want to see what your take is on this now that we're seeing France, a powerful country, taking this step, which is a little bit unprecedented, by declaring they will recognize the statehood of Palestine.
Well, at a simultaneous point in time, this is both unexplainable and immoral. It's unexplainable because, well, here's the question. Great, you're going to recognize the Palestinian state. Who's its leader?
Right. What does that even mean?
Yeah. If you're going to go sign an agreement with them, whose signature are you going to get on it? And it's also worth noting that it's confusing. I don't even know what it really means to recognize a Palestinian state. Just as importantly, it's immoral. These are people who killed Americans. These are people who have no capacity for moral reasoning, for conducting sovereignty. You can see what they're doing to their own people. In the midst of this conflict, to reach out and recognize them only fuels Hamas. It only gives the Iranian regime a lifeline in a way that presents an enormous amount of risk to the people in Gaza, enormous risk to the people of Israel and the Gulf states, and certainly risk to us in the United States of America as well. It's incomprehensible why President Macron would engage in this kind of what he would view as progressive moral preening at a time where there's still an active conflict taking place.
And it's an issue that's all over Europe right now. And I think there's a lot of people that are concerned even with travel and what they can do. And I'm sure if you're Israeli, you're going, okay, well, what does that look like? We're seeing people on airplanes getting removed. We're seeing all of this happening in Spain. This is an interesting time, whether you are a supporter of Israel or just even not sure if you're supporting of, like you said, a Palestinian state that right now not only has no clear leader, but if it does have a clear leader, it's Hamas.
Yeah, no, that's it. By the way, someone ought to draw for me the map that he thinks he's recognizing. It'd be interesting to know. Be interesting to know what he thinks to draw the map around Jerusalem. To draw, does that include Gaza? Does it include Judea and Samaria? Both of them? Neither of them? Either of them? What's that look like in East Jerusalem? I don't think he really knows. This is literally a press release and moral preening, and that's not how statecraft should be practiced. And most importantly, this is dangerous. Because to your point, I promise you that the leader of Hamas believes that he is the leader of Palestine, and if he now has statehood from the Europeans, he'll ask for recognition at the European Union, he'll ask for recognition at the UN, and all of the things that come with statehood. Now, the terrorist leader, a designated terrorist in Gaza Strip, in Hamas, and someone who's recently killed hundreds and hundreds of Israelis, will now view himself as a leader on the world stage.
It's like Macron as Michael Scott going, I declare
statehood,
Palestine. I mean, that's what it feels like.
I like it. Yeah. That's a good analogy.
So I did want to follow up with this as we're coming here to a break, but you have a new article up. This is a completely different topic, but it's at ACLJ.org. I encourage everyone to go read it. It's fantastic. But the title is 6 months in and Trump's regulatory rollback is a win for the American people. The media doesn't focus too much time on this. They don't get juicy headlines as much out of it, but you point out that there's something that's not really reported on that much is this 10-for-1 rule on rolling back regulations. And I just wanted to get from you, how important is this that could really supercharge our economy and help out small businesses across this country?
2009, I ran for Congress because my small business was being regulated to death. Not just taxes, that was bad enough, but the EPA, OSHA, the list was long. And I decided I wanted to go be part of a Washington that would fix that. And now President Trump is actually going to do that. It is glorious. He will unleash prosperity. If you're a young student in college and you think, man, I want to go run my own business, you can now get it started fast. And you can get the permitting you need to do it. All of these things that get little noticed in the press will just drive the American economy and create freedom for so many Americans. It's a glorious thing. I hope they stay at this till the very day they're out of office. If we got rid of 80% of the regulatory framework that was there today, we would still be safe. We still have clean drinking water. The air would still be just as clean as it is today. Safety in the workplace would still exist. And yet we would have people who were wealthier, people who could buy their first homes, small businesses that could flourish and hire people. It's a really important part of the energy agenda and the economic agenda of the Trump administration. I applaud every time they can roll back a regulation. There's a little more prosperity and freedom in our country.
Check out also Secretary Pompeo's article on ACLJ.org. Always great to hear from you. Always great to hear your advice and commentary here. As we are wrapping up our 35 years of justice drive, I want you right now to give if you can give. This is a great time to do it. Just all gifts, understand this right now, are doubled. So even if you become an ACLJ champion, you do that little opt-in and say, I want to give monthly. And I want to give $20 a month, let's say. Let's say you want to give $50 a month to this organization, which, by the way, provides all the legal help for absolutely free, and, of course, all the media content for absolutely free. No paywalls here, not like anybody else. Okay, it's very rare to find that these days. We don't want that. We want you to be able to share this content. But if you opt in, your first donation essentially becomes $100. You don't have to give that $100. There's another ACLJ supporter or champion, a group, ready to unlock their pledge. And all you have to do is donate. As we head to this end of this first hour, we know some of you lose this. We have another half hour coming up. So join us live again each and every day on ACLJ.org, on YouTube, on Rumble. All you got to do is look for us. Of course, you can catch us later on archived as well. But I'm going to ask you to support the work of the ACLJ. This is our short break. Less than a minute. Do what you can do. We'll be right back.
In a just world, there'd be no need for the ACLJ. In a just world, there'd be no need for the ACLJ. But this is not a just world. For 35 years, the American Center for Law and Justice has fought to change that. Since 1990, the ACLJ has established a legacy of victory, defending constitutional rights, protecting innocent life, and standing for freedom. None of the critical legal victories we've scored over the past 35 years would have been possible without the support of our ACLJ members and champions. But the threats to life and religious liberty are far from over. Right now, every tax-deductible gift will be doubled dollar for dollar, to make sure we're ready to fight for another 35 years. This isn't just our work, it's our calling. To learn more about our 35-year legacy of victory, go to aclj.org.
Keeping you informed and engaged, now more than ever. This is Seculo. And now your host, Logan Seculo.
Welcome back to Seculo. Second half hour coming up. And look, we got a special guest coming up in the next segment. Will, who we got?
We got Congressman Abraham Hamadeh from Arizona's 8th Congressional District. We haven't had him on since he's been a member of Congress, but he has been on the show many times over the years and is going to be on talking about the horrific things that are happening in Syria to the Druze community and how both the United States and Congress can step up.
Before we get to that, though, I want to take some phone calls because we're not going to be able to take that many more throughout the show. So let's try to get to some of you who've been on hold for a while. Let's go to Janet, who's been a supporter of the ACLJ. We appreciate it. Janet, you're on the air.
I've been supporting ACLJ for well over 30 years. Jay's little card to me said 32, but it was actually before that. I believe Jay was part of the 800 Club at one time.
700 Club, yes, yep.
Yeah, 700 Club.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I got the wrong one.
No, it's close enough.
But I also saw and heard him there. My husband was a avid listener. He died 34 years ago, and he was already supporting Jay.
Well, Janet,
so I just wanted to tell people this is a worthy cause.
Janet, know how much I appreciate you saying that, calling in. And look, you're right. Because when we were trying to decide, it's a little blurry when the ACLJ begins or when it ends or when we start, because there was other things that led to the formation of the ACLJ. And of course, my family was deeply involved in those. You were seeing us before you even saw what became the branded American Center for Law and Justice, which did start 35 years ago. But the Seculo family has been a part of this fight my entire life and beyond, whether that was with Jews for Jesus, early days, whether that was our original case, the original foundation, and then what became branded as the ACLJ. So, Janet, when I hear that, I hear the emotion in your voice, know how much I really do appreciate it. You know, it's been my entire life. We have been fighting for these causes and really been building this organization up to what it is, and we cannot do it without people like you and your husband. And look, I know it's been a long time, but we pray for you and your family. I can hear it in your voice, Janet, how much we appreciate it. And, you know, I don't take any of this lightly. We don't certainly take any of the lights that can be on in this building for granted, because none of it happens without you. None happens with people like Janet, none of people that are listening. Because, again, no big corporate sponsors. It's not how it works here. We are truly supported by our listeners, by our viewers, and by people who really want to see our legal work take shape around the world. Again, the ACLJ is built on Christian values, and it's always been built on the idea that that doesn't only exist within our borders as well. So that's why we have the ECLJ. That's why we have ACLJ Jerusalem. We've had other entities that have come and gone over the years depending on a political climate or where you can be in certain parts of the world. And we are in areas of the world we can never tell you about. And know that we really do appreciate it. We got about a minute and a half. I'm going to try to take one more call. It's been on hold for a while. Let's go to Kathy real quick in Pennsylvania. Kathy, you're on the air.
Hi, Logan. Oops, I can hear an echo, and I don't have it on, so I'm not sure why.
I'm going to try to get back to you. Let me put you on hold for a minute here. We'll get back to you hopefully in the next segment. Let's quickly go to Kevin, who's an ACLJ champion. Kevin, go ahead real quick.
I'm a Christian, a patriot, a conservative, a combat veteran, and I can say that the quiet majority of Americans do not want to see Obama put in jail, but we do want to know the truth, and we want consequences to prevent this type of activity from happening again.
Kevin, I think that's a very logical way to look at it, which is find out the truth, have it all revealed, make sure we know everything. That's why I think Tulsi Gabbard's doing a great job. Of course, she was a member of this broadcast team for a number of years. It's because I believe her. I believe that she is telling you the truth, whether you like it or not. That's what we do here at the ACLJ as well. I'm going to slow it down. I can hear myself talking too fast. This is what we do here at the organization as well. I always tell you, I'm going to tell you the truth. I'm not just going to tickle your ear, if you will. We're not just going to tell you what you want to hear. A lot of people will do that. And then they'll ask you to pay to see it. Nope, we're going to tell you the truth, and truth that you can send to your friends and family for absolutely no cost. And that experience doesn't happen without people like you. We don't have incredible members of the team without people like you. We have special guests coming up and so much more on this broadcast today. And we will see if we can get to some more calls. Kathy, stay on hold. I'm going to try to get to you. But that may be it for the day for calls. But we'll see. We'll be right back. There's been some attacks in Damascus and Syria. And this has gotten a little bit of attention. But I definitely wanted to check in with Jeff, just kind of give us an update here, because it isn't dominating our news cycle right now. We're not seeing it a lot.
Both Israel and Syria have a minority population of the Druze religion. The Druze religion spun off of Islam, and it's its own faith, and they're extremely loyal here in Israel. They serve in the army, and they're very loyal to whatever government they have if the government treats them well. Well, in Syria now, the new rulers of Syria are not treating them well. Apparently, there seems to be a lot of savagery and massacres against Druze. And so the Druze community in Israel has asked the state of Israel to help support them against the current rulers of Syria. Now, this implicates America as well. America is very happy with the fact that the current rulers of Syria, the temporary rulers of Syria, we'll see how long they last, are blocking Iran's access to Hezbollah. And now Israel also likes that. But of course, neither Israel and we hope America will really tolerate the religious abuse and massacres of the Druze minority. So this is very important to the Druze here in Israel. And this now implicates the question for Israel is how much will they support the Druze community? And right now they are supporting. And of course, there's a lot of international dialogue because the United States has a stake in this as well in terms of stability of the region.
And I know that a lot of eyes around the world will be on this, even if this doesn't break through necessarily in American headlines as much. We'll see some stories on it.
And since it does seem to me that there's a path forward, maybe that this president, because he's so bold, can help with this prime minister, and there seem to be a great team, in restructuring even the borders here to have more permanence and safety and security for the minorities, including the many, many Christians who are under dire attack from in the countries they live in under Muslim control.
Welcome back to Seculo. Like I said, a few of you are on hold right now. We're going to try to get to some of you coming up. We do have a very special guest, Will.
That's right. We have Congressman Abe Hamadeh from Arizona's 8th Congressional District. Congressman, thank you for joining us on the broadcast today. And this is a very important topic. I know that you're on the front lines in Congress of pushing for both peace and accountability in Syria. And you mentioned in a statement that you put out, your office put out earlier this week, that the violence against the Druze community in Syria must end immediately. And you also talk about how the president has offered a fig leaf to the entire community in Syria, the new government there, to say, hey, you can join the world stage. You can come here and show that you mean to move forward. But now they have to move forward and actually show that they can do something. What's your take on the situation going here?
Yeah, good to be with you both. So, Syria has a special place. Obviously, I'm the son of Syrian immigrants. And when I took my oath of office in January of this year, I actually used the Bible of Kayla Mueller, Carl and Marsha Mueller. The parents were here when I got sworn in, and she was actually killed by ISIS 11 years ago by al-Baghdadi himself. So I can't escape it right now. With the fall of the Assad regime, we had a lot of hope to see what was going to happen for the future of Syria. Unfortunately, the events that happened last week with the targeted killing of the Druze in southern Syria has a lot of concern for me. I'm talking to Druze Americans who are in Syria right now. They are scared. I know that they're helping. Hopefully, there's going to be a facilitation to get them out of the country very soon. I'm talking to Ambassador Tom Barrack, who's doing a good job. And President Trump, when he met with the new Syrian president in Saudi Arabia back in May, he did give them a new way forward for their country. And what we got to make sure is that they're actually living up to their word. They have to protect the minorities, the Christians, the Druze, the Alawites, the Kurds. And so the United States has a role to play in this to help shape and define this new Syria, because Syria is at a critical crosspoint. I mean, we had the Iranians who had control over Syria for so long, and the Russians who had control over it. And now what we're witnessing is an ability to have a new Syria that is not hostile to the United States or Israel. So that's my main focus. I'm more optimistic in terms of having the leadership of President Trump there to help shape this new Middle East. However, based off the actions of the Syrian government last week and whether they were actively involved or passive, it concerns me to have that many Druze murdered and butchered on the streets, and that's totally unacceptable. And we saw what happened about 3 weeks ago with a bombing at a church as well. So I know it's a tough situation coming out of a civil war like that, but we have to make sure we're always protecting the minorities of that country.
I want to make sure people also know the facts about what's going on, because I think it's very easy to get everything confused and wrapped up, and you're like, okay, well, we know there's Israel happening and there's Gaza happening and over there Iran, and now it's Syria, and it becomes a bit hard to decipher if you can't picture it, if you will. Can you give us a bit of understanding of why Syria is important in this situation, why we need to be engaged and involved in what's happening here? There's probably a lot of people even watching who have just now heard of the Druze community that are not that connected to what's happening. That's not to say that they shouldn't have, but it's just the facts, and I can see that in the comments. So I want you to kind of explain to the American people why this is something we need to be keeping an eye on.
Sure. Well, under the Assad regime, first with Hafez al-Assad and then his son Bashar al-Assad, they were ruling Syria for 50 years. And for 50 years, they were close with the Soviets and the Russians and the Iranians, and they were actively at war with Israel at many points in time. So when you had the fall of the Assad regime that happened last December, now you had so many of these tribal factions and rebel groups come out of that. And what we had was this new Syrian president emerged as the leader, and with President Trump's blessing, he removed the sanctions on him. He removed the terrorist designation. Remember, he was listed as a sponsor of terrorism, but now that's all been lifted. So it's all important because Syria has Mediterranean access, right? And Russia at a time actually had port access over there as well. So it's important. It's important for the Americans to understand that the Middle East is complex, but what occurs there, as we've seen countless times, sadly and unfortunately, is that we're not immune from the Atlantic or Pacific Ocean. So much of what comes out of the Middle East, sadly, can come into the homeland. That's why it's so important to keep focus on that. So, with the Israelis taking out the Iranian facilities with the United States as well, that was key to reshape the Middle East. But President Trump, if you look at his first time when he was in office, his first country he visited was Saudi Arabia. Now in his second term, he also went to the Middle East, Saudi Arabia, Qatar, the UAE. He understands how vital that region is to the United States' interests. And I always say America first does not mean America alone. We need our allies like Israel. But, going back, there are Americans in Syria. During the Civil War, we had Kayla Mueller give up her life. She was a Christian missionary. And to see what she was doing over there, trying to help the people of Syria, and I'm still trying to recover her body, her remains. I'm still actively working on that. So we got to make sure that all of Americans' remains come back, especially what just happened last week in Sueda in southern Syria that affected the Druze community. I have a tie with the Druze community because my mother is Druze. And so although many Americans may not hear of so many of these little groups in the Middle East, it's all ties into it. And Israel is very well aware of what's happening. And when Israel took out, Israel has a huge Druze community in their own country, and they're very supportive of the Druze because they're very involved in their government there as well. And for Israel to be the one to help the Druze community at a time of need. Remember, they actually attacked some aspects of Syria just last week as well. And so it all ties into it. And the United States position, we had the Kurds. Don't forget about our Kurdish allies in Iraq and Syria. They were the ones on the ground helping fight ISIS. And so all of these minority groups, they've all tied into the United States strategic interests over time when we were actually engaged over there in the fight. We cannot abandon our allies, and that's my biggest message to the Middle East right now.
Congressman Hamadeh, thank you so much for joining us on this and bringing, the attention to this, but we know that you will be fighting in Congress for this, that you will be working with the Trump administration on the way forward as well. And we look forward to having you on the broadcast again soon as things develop and other angles that we can talk about this.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me on.
All right, thank you so much. Now I want to jump to a couple calls before we wrap up for the day. Let's go to Kathy, who's calling. Let's try this one more time. Kathy, you've been on hold for a half an hour, so I want to make sure you get your time to speak. Go ahead.
Thanks. Hi, Logan. Just 2 points. One is I thought that immunity, presidential immunity, only applies while you are at president. That after you leave the presidency, that immunity no longer applies. And it's my understanding that Obama continued his role of being the chief,
the ringleader, so to speak.
Yeah. Yep.
Kathy, just quickly here, because we're getting close on time here, but I did want to address this. One, that is the official acts that happened during his presidency, if they're going to consider it as that for the immunity. It would be very similar, the parallel with the case that actually ruled on that from the Supreme Court was something that happened while President Trump was in office. They were trying to prosecute for later, and the Supreme Court said, no, that doesn't work. President Trump, when that case went forward, was no longer president. So that would be similar. If he had this meeting and they're saying it's an official act, even though we know the outcome of what the entire purpose of it was, that would still be the same kind of analogy that he happened while he was president and then while he was no longer. So that would extend to the former president in that way. But also, I mean, they are doing an investigation. So if there is proof and things that he was doing illegal criminal things post-presidency, I'm certain that the Department of Justice would be interested in that and would be looking at it. But we just don't have that information.
I thank you so much for calling. I want to say thanks also to the few people we didn't get to today. If you're on hold still, we're not going to be able to get to you, but call back next week. Make sure you tell the phone screener that you were holding and we just didn't get to you. We just ran out of time. As we head into this last segment of the week, I do want to encourage you to support the work of the ACLJ right now. We only have a few days left in our 35 years of justice drive. We were down to the wire to hit our budget, and Will and I have been working hard to do that. Look, it's a direct reflection on us, Will. We got to make sure people do it. When you support the work of the ACLJ, especially when you scan that QR code or you go to the slug, the aclj.org/35, no, that directly impacts Will and I because we go, look, those are our incredible listeners. Those are the people that watch this show each and every day. So do that right now. If you want to be supportive of the broadcast, that is a great way to do it. Of course, we have our legal work that's incredible, but of course, this broadcast is available absolutely free. It has been a wild week, to say the least. You know, I'm watching right now, all the screens are up, and you're seeing Ozzy, you're seeing Hulk Hogan, and you're seeing so many people. It's been a tough time, but know that we really do appreciate all the support. And as we head into the next segment is a encore segment of some of the best calls that we've had this week. So I want to make sure you stay tuned for that. Don't go anywhere. But it is, I make sure that you guys know, it is not live, so it says to call in. Fortunately, it is an encore segment. But that's why I am right now taking this 30 seconds to just say, help us double our efforts right now, whether we're in Washington, D.C. or our media center here in Nashville, Tennessee. You can't do it without you. Become a champion if you can. We're down a little in champions. So if you can give and become a monthly supporter, do it right now. Opt in to be a champion, and your first gift is doubled, as long as you do it within this drive. We'll be right back.
Former President Barack Obama breaking his silence on all the allegations directly from President Trump that he and his administration led the Trump-Russia collusion lie.
The spokesperson for former President Obama writes this: nothing in the document issued last week undercuts the widely accepted conclusion that Russia worked to influence the 2016 presidential election, but did not successfully manipulate any votes.
There's a long laundry list of facts and intelligence reporting that directly contradict the statement coming from President Obama's office and those who are trying to deflect away from what actually happened.
We have all of the documents, and from what Tulsi told me, she's got thousands of additional documents coming. So President Obama, it was his concept, his idea, but he also got it from crooked Hillary Clinton.
The Office of the Director of National Intelligence is dropping a bombshell report that informs that opinion.
The new report finds the Russian president's asserted preference for the Trump-Pence ticket was based on only one classified data point, which was itself one scant, unclear, and unverifiable fragment of a sentence from a flawed report.
The establishment apparatus and the Democratic Party did everything they could to undermine President Trump's candidacy and also his presidency.
Now we know Russian President Putin, his so-called preference for that Trump-Pence ticket was based on a, quote, scant, unclear, unverifiable fragment of a sentence from a flawed report. Those are the words written in this report now. And yet Obama and the Democrats ran with it.
It was all to undermine President Trump and his presidency. And God bless Tulsi for sending this to the DOJ. I hope they dig into this. I mean, I hope that they go after this, because I think this is what it was, a conspiracy to undermine the first term of President Trump.
Welcome back to Seculo. I do have two lines open for you, and no one in the studio with me. I'm so lonely. Will left. You know, this is what happens. So you'll see what happens when I have 8 minutes to my own devices. What's going to happen? We're going to take some phone calls. That's right. A lot of you have been on hold for a long time, and I appreciate that. Some of you are traditional terrestrial radio listeners. Some are YouTube viewers. If you are on our YouTube channel, I'm going to ask you real quick. 508,000 plus subscribers. Millions watch each week. Half of you that are watching right now may have never seen me before. We look at our numbers. We can see that 50% often aren't subscribed. So if you look for a way to support the ACLJ and support this kind of broadcasting, maybe you're not ready or you can't right now make a financial donation. I understand it's a tough time for a lot of people. But a great free way to do it is just hit that subscribe button. Helps us get into your feed and more people's feeds. Let's go ahead and take some of these calls. We're going to first start off. Let's just go in order as they come in, and I'll do my best to answer them. Estelle's calling from South Carolina. Again, listening on the radio. Estelle, welcome.
Hey, guys. I forgot to tell them I'm a ACLJ champion. I appreciate it.
Thank you. I would have got you, but well, thankfully you got first anyway. So though you were on hold for a half an hour, I maybe would have tried to do it, but I really do appreciate it. Of course, Estelle, that means that she gives on a monthly recurring basis, which is great. Go ahead.
No, I'm so frustrated because all this stuff going on, all the Obama and Brenner, will there ever be any repercussions from all this, or is it just going to go floating in the wind somewhere?
It is totally understandable that you would feel that way. I'm not going to say I don't feel the same way. We have been through this. I've seen this movie before, as we've heard many times. Now, a little bit different here. You have an administration that is actually living up to some of their campaign promises. You have a Tulsi Gabbard, who doesn't play politics in that sense, who is someone that was a Democrat, who ran against President Trump, but could see the corruption that was going on and joined forces. That does not happen very much in Washington, D.C. People hold grudges for a very long time. So it's a different world. That being said, do I think there's going to be a huge indictment of President Obama? I don't. Do I think there's other people that can be held accountable surrounding it? Yeah, possibly. That could happen. I just don't see it happening in this country, and I don't personally know if a decade later, if that's really the best mode. I know you're going to say, I see the comments are going to come in and say, Logan, they committed a crime, they got to do the time, all those kind of things. But remember, it's politics, and you have to see through it and see clear. Also look to the future. What does it mean? What are the ramifications? What's the ramifications of presidential immunity? Here you go. Which, by the way, I'm not saying I was against it, but you got to live with the consequences. It goes both ways. It's not just presidential immunity for the guy you like. But Estelle, I understand you feeling that way. I do think there could be some real investigations. There could be some real criminal activity or criminal prosecutions, but I do think to think it's going to get to the level of President Obama is maybe going a bit too far. But we'll see. You never know. It's an interesting team in that White House. But thanks for calling. Let's go to Justin now, who's calling from California. Justin, you're on the air.
Hey, thanks for taking my call. I think Democrats constantly claim that they're the party of moral and ethical superiority. Yet now, thanks to Tulsi, this information has been encumbered with the Obama administration. It's so disappointing, to say the least. But I think Democrats play dirty. We know this. And I just want to make sure that as Republicans, we spread the message that, we're not going to do that. And I play dirty. That is, and I think our moral compass is the Constitution.
Justin, I hope you're right. I encourage those who are watching and listening that are in the administration right now, and look, I know many of you do watch. I hear from some of them, and I appreciate that. But listen to what Justin said. He wants you to be in there with your morals and your head on straight, not just playing politics. Very hard in Washington, D.C. I don't like being in Washington, D.C. I don't care to be around the people there because typically it is very dark. But there's some light. There's some light. There's some good people there. He brought up that he was very disappointed in President Obama. I typically say there was actually a pretty big difference between the Obama administration and the Biden administration. We worked with the Obama administration even when we disagreed with him. There are times we had meetings where our team got to meet with President Obama and his team. That did not happen at all in the Biden years. However, now you look at this and you look at the information that was uncovered and you go, well, maybe it's just the same. Great speaker. Most people voted for him. Okay. Those were pretty much landslide elections. Even though, most people were supportive of President Obama. We weren't necessarily one of them, but that is where we were. So I understand the disappointment. I'm going to continue on. Jane is calling in California. Jane, go ahead.
Hi, friend. I love getting my news from you. And what I have to say is just a little bit tongue-in-cheek, and maybe Justin will want to hop on board. But after having been gaslit for 10 years about all of this stuff, I just think it might be fair, and I'd like you to take my case. I think I have standing. That the $40 million that was wasted on the Mueller report because they already knew the answers.
Sure.
That we could use that to turn Obama's Martha's Vineyard property into an Airbnb for all of those who were robbed of, Trump's hands were tied because of that stuff. And so just if we could have a little R&R at the Airbnb.
Everyone wants to visit Martha's Vineyard. Why not? Look, I understand that this is tongue-in-cheek, and I understand your thoughts about this. A lot of people sacrificed themselves. A lot of people went through the ringer during those years. And look, my family represented President Trump and everything, all the stuff that happened during all that situation. You have no idea the hours that were spent. You can only imagine what it was actually like. It's brutal. Beat a lot of people up. A lot of people didn't make it. A lot of people did. But a lot of people didn't make it because this is they say politics is a blood sport, and that's 100% true. So what I can say is that's very funny, and that would be nice. Everyone needs a little R&R. Pray for the people that are involved in this because it's darker and heavier than you can imagine. Let's go ahead, continue on. I got 2 minutes, 3 calls. I don't think I'll be able to get to all 3 of you, but we'll get to as many as we can. Don's calling. Go ahead, Don. That's you.
I had a real quick question about consent decrees. Here in L.A., that Mr. Trump's team is doing a great job trying to, round up illegals, but LAPD is enjoined by the mayor, by the governor, everybody not to cooperate with us. And I remember Mr. Obama mentioning him during his administration, like things like Ferguson, for one example, he put police departments under consent decrees to make them do what he wanted. Can we use a similar mechanism to compel them to comply with federal law, comply with the authorities?
Well, a lot of times you think federal law would go above this. Look, I'm not a lawyer. I don't claim to be. I don't want to go into the details. But some of this is also what's going on, even in your own churches, what's going on in your own community. I watched a clip this morning of a church in California where the priest, I think it was pastor, was dressed like RoboCop. And the entire sermon was about how RoboCop was preaching against the police and how we need to remember what RoboCop was doing. And then he went on to talk about ICE. And I'm watching there going, man, I don't necessarily even disagree with all his points. But it's coming from a dude dressed like RoboCop. We got to change the way we talk about these things. But Don, thank you for calling. We'll try to pass that on. I only got 58 seconds, so unfortunately, I'm going to say thank you to Adam and Rhonda and ask if you want to call in tomorrow. Hopefully you guys weren't on hold for too long. If you want to call in tomorrow, we'll try to get you up first. Okay, the best I can do. Thanks for calling. That being said, it is the final week of our drive here. It is 35 years. And remember, I am about to be 40 years old. I have worked on this organization with the ACLJ for the mass majority of my life. If you got those original envelopes from us and newsletters, there's a good chance this 5-year-old was stuffing those envelopes to send to you. We've been involved in this our entire lives, and we hope to continue it for generations to come. Because we want to be there for you and be there for people all around the world. If you could have said it would gone from our kitchen table to now we're taking on cases in Syria, we would never imagined it, but God has blessed it. Go to aclj.org/35.